So in front of me is a pretty special set of 1911's. Everybody's used to seeing your standard right-handed 1911. Maybe it has the AV safeties, maybe it doesn't. But as you can see, especially from our vertical view from above, you have two perfectly symmetrical 1911's. So these are a left and right-handed 1911's. As I pick up the first one, you can notice that it has the safety on the side for the righty user. So for the thumb, and obviously ejecting out the right-hand side, as every 1911 that John Browning has ever created or ever wanted to have created can do. But then Cabot was like, well, that's not good enough. What if you need to go dual wielding with Cabot's? And they created the left-handed version. Now, many manufacturers have produced a left-handed safety, obviously, before. Even some produce a left-handed ejection, a left-handed mag release. But to provide ejection on the left-hand side is something that at least I've never seen and don't know of anyone else that offers it. So that's a pretty cool function. So these are both the Vintage Classic and 5-inch. There are matching pairs. We have them in the store right now, and you'll see them for display up in the upper room if you want to come check it out. But let's take a little bit of a deeper dive into what makes Cabot so special. Before disassembling any weapon, obviously we're going to make sure it's clear, and I can see that it's clear, and Scott's already cleared it. He's behind the camera, so that's two ways. Obviously I took the magazine out just to review. We did an unboxing video, so if you really care to see what's in the box, you can just go watch that. But I hate unboxing videos. But it does come with 8-round mags. Obviously make sure you take your mag out before you start this. So one of the coolest features about taking apart a Cabot is everybody always talks about the idiot scratch that you get right there on the gun. So what they did is they milled out a piece, and I'll show that in a second, so that you don't scratch it. Now that doesn't mean that the first time I did this I wasn't shaking because of the value of this gun. It's such an heirloom quality, but I was. So moving on. So taking apart any 1911, we're going to start with the bushing. I've already cleared the weapon. Cabot sends one of these little composite bushing wrenches. So I turn. Springs out. So nothing really to write home about as far as the spring goes. Turn it around, slide it to there, push through. I have found that just because the tolerances are so tight, sometimes I use a non-marring plastic piece and I can just push it out the other side. And that comes out. So I'll show this to the camera above me. But as you can see, as you push it in, they actually bevel the side and put a small groove. And they put a small groove right there so that you can push it right in. It pushes the spring that holds the slide stop up when it's in function. It pushes that spring slowly and gradually out of the way so you don't have to stick in there with a paper clip or something else or do the idiot scratch on the frame itself. So I pull that out of the way. Now the slide comes right off. Now, as Ernie and I have talked about before, something that makes Cabot really quite special is they do all of the manufacturing in-house. So what that means is they don't get billets from Brazil or billets from China and then mill them themselves. They actually do it all in-house. So there's a few pieces like some screws, etc. they don't make themselves, but as far as the frame and the slide goes, they do it themselves. And what this means is that the tolerances are the tightest that we've ever seen in 1911. I've been asked to hold a 1911 before and shake the slide against the frame and say, oh, look how tight that is. It doesn't move at all. But it always moves a little bit because it has to. It's a gun. These don't. It's amazing, and that's one of the reasons that they can claim their 1.5-inch accuracy at 25 yards. So another interesting part is if we come back here, so take out my full-length guide rod. Something to show in the guide rod is you have one of their stars, one of their Trinity stars. That's one of their trademark items. They put in the end, just a little bit of flare on the gun. Take out the match grade barrel. Of note, differences take out the bushing first. So the bushing's really tight, and one of the reasons for that is there's a groove in it that catches the barrel when it locks up. And it's going to be very hard to see in there, and we'll take close-up pictures afterwards, but there's a groove in there that tightens up the tolerances as it comes over the end of the barrel so that it truly does fit on over the barrel super tight. So every time it comes into battery, it is locking that barrel into an exact position. Again, one of the reasons they have superior accuracy. So coming back out, here's the barrel. You can see they trimmed a little bit off the shoulder, so the barrel itself is a little bit wider. This again gives it a tighter lockup, making it just a supremely accurate gun. So we've got it apart, and now let's get it back together again. Again, I've never been so afraid putting together a 1911 for fear of scratching it. battery in. I still do the habit of putting it in vertically so I don't scratch the frame, even though it's not supposed to. Pops in, bring it out a little bit. Now move the slide to the notch. This is what I was talking about. So you don't want to push up and in like you're in a habit. You put a point with this. You put the spring into that groove and perfectly center it, and as long as the slide's in the right spot, it just slides right in. It's the easiest thing in the world. I hope everybody else starts doing it if they haven't copyrighted that. So from here, I will put in my bushing. So this part I found was initially hard because, as you can see, the bushing doesn't want to sit into the barrel. This is again because it has that collar that just helps it tighten up to very tight tolerances. So what I found is the best way to do it is to bring the slide back a little bit, bring the bushing to snap in over the barrel, twist it, it comes in, and then I bring, oh, come on, there you go. I get it to sit, and I have it come up with the slide, and just like when it's coming into battery from after firing around. So if, at that point I push the slide all the way forward, twist, bring my slide in, or slide spring, down. I'm finding that the bushing is really tight, so sometimes it takes a couple goes, and I can't quite do it with my finger like I can with my kimber. So bring that in, just cam that over. So that slid into place. Now we have our 1911 back together, and she's obviously going to pass the function check because it's a Cabot. There you go. As you can see on the top, you have tritium Novak sights front and rear. One of the options that they offer for this is that you can also put a traditional gold bead up front, which is actually really impressive how well that works. I know some competition shooters that still like to use a gold bead up front, all polished. But these have the tritium night sights that work really well. They also flatten to the top of the slide and then put some serrations on it, which is a really nice style finish. So from there, I'm going to turn and look at the muzzle. You have one of their stars on the guide rod itself. You have the barrel bushing, and then you also have the flush and then beveled match barrel inside, which is one of their claims to fame for why they have such good accuracy. So I'll keep talking about all the things that build into that. Looking at the gun on its side, you have the 3 stars in the trigger, which is what they call their Trinity configuration. You also notice that the edge of the trigger is beveled. It's smooth, which I've never seen in 1911. They're in some customs. I shouldn't say I've never seen it. So on top of the slide, you also have some checkered serrations with 3 hash marks. That's what they call their Trinity hash marks. Starting to notice a trend there if you haven't. And then obviously the Cabot Guns logo on the corner. This particular model came with the Turkish walnut grips, but you can get them with ivory, you can get them with gold because it's Cabot. You can get whatever you want, depending if you want to do a Trump 45 or not. And then looking down the gun, on the front, you have 24 line per inch rhombus checkering. So rhombus is the way of, they're saying that it's an angled tread. So it's much like your tire or anything else in the fact that the idea is that it helps your fingers with each time the gun recoils, it helps your fingers slide up until you have a nice and tight grip, and then it's going to hold them from sliding down. So instead of your grip loosening and getting worse with each shot, it actually is trending towards a higher grip on the gun, which for me feels really good. And then you also have the same thing on the back strap itself. So looking at the bottom side of the weapon, you notice that there's a beveled mag well, which is going to be pretty standard these days, but obviously still good. One of our customers shoots his Cabot competitively, which is pretty darn cool if you ask me. And he absolutely loves it. He actually just traded one out, so he took his in used, and then we also have another one. We are one of the only Cabot dealers in the Northeast, and we're definitely the only one in New England, so if you're ever interested in coming down to see us for that. Part of our evaluation, we were talking about how good the triggers were. We figured we'd check it out and report back to you guys. So what I have here is a Lyman trigger scale. I'm going to start with the right-handed model. We'll do both the right and the left. We'll do 3 times each, and then I'll show you the average. So hammer's nock, weapon's clear, no magazine. I can start pulling. So obviously each time I'm trying to be as consistent as possible where it is on the trigger, and also how fast I'm pulling it. A little bit lower that time. I'm gonna do one more. So our average after 4 is 3 pounds, 9.3 ounces, in a little bit of shift. So the first 2 were over 10, the second 2 were under 10, but pretty consistent. I'd say that's beyond anybody's ability to feel, unless you're maybe the most seasoned of pros. So now let's go to the left hand. I'm still gonna hold up my right hand just to make sure I don't do anything different. Weapon's already been cleared, hammer's back. A little bit heavier. We had 2 heavy ones on the last one too, so we'll see. Within 1 ounce. Still within. I'm going to do 4 just to make it even. Wow, very consistent. So within 1 ounce on the left-handed at 3 pounds, 14 ounces. So it's only about 2 ounces, well, let's hit the average. 13, or 3 pounds, 13.8 ounces, you can see. And the average between the guns are only 3 ounces off. I will say I actually could tell the difference. Pulling the trigger on the left-handed one, I could notice it was a little bit heavier, but I mean ever so slightly. It also just might be that how many times they test fired at the factory, who knows what else. And I'm sure that they'll wear in a little bit, but very light and very, very, very repeatable.